Welcome to Marketing Masters. I'm Michelle Bell, and boy, do we have a show for you today. My guest today is Ryan Alford. Welcome, Ryan.
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you. So a little bit about Ryan here before we get started. He is a progressive and successful Southern guy that tends to stand out as soon as he opens his mouth. He's approachable but opinionated, and he gains trust quickly because he tells the truth even when it hurts. That's good. He is made from coming from neither old money or new money. He came from no money. Ryan surprises people from all of his experience because he's guided some of the largest brands in the world in marketing, including Verizon, Apple, Samsung, Google, Lexus, and also the NFL. He spent a lot of time in New York City working at some of the most respected agencies in the world. And ultimately, he's very comfortable in his own skin and has a natural ability to understand human behavior and business at a high level. Super excited to talk to you today about all of this.
Yeah, happy to be here. I open my mouth and my accent comes on. So, I have no switch for that. I can switch off some things, but the accent kind of is an immediate tell.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to dive right in. What separates you, Ryan, from the crowd and lets you make your noise?
Well, ultimately, I think I've broken a lot of rules, starting with being a Southern kid from South Carolina, coming from really no real pedigree, and worked my way up to one of the highest ranks at one of the largest ad agencies in the world, working with some of the largest brands. So I was a marketer and an entrepreneur by heart. And some of the brands you mentioned, I've worked with. And so I think I was always not a small underdog, a big underdog. I played basketball, a tall kid, but I wouldn't say I could sneak up on anyone, but I think always a little bit of a surprise. And I think ultimately what stands out now in today's world, where with social media and a lot of things, I think there's a lot of, I don't want to say fake it till you make it, but there's a lack of substance. And, I spent 15 years working in marketing with some of the largest brands in the world, really had no social presence. And I think I really come from the stance of like practical experience. And I think that's what makes me stand out with a lot of things. There's substance behind a lot of what I've done. It's just taken me a little while to kind of get that story out there, which I've been spending the last 5 years doing.
That's awesome. Very cool. So what's three main points, like key points to your brand right now that you've been working on?
I think ultimately it's really about being human. Mm-hmm. And I think when you come from the South, there's like this natural authenticity, hopefully, that you have. It's hard to it's not in our nature for whatever reason to kind of put over people or put it on. We kind of are who we are. But I think in today's world and with social media and a lot of things feeling very plastic and feeling you're just not sure. I think, again, that authenticity, that humanity with my personal brand especially really sticks out when it breaks through the clouds, so to speak, because there's so much noise out there, and you're listening to people and you hear stories and you hear their perspective and you like it, but you're like, I don't know if I believe that. While it also is that really real? Can that really happen? Mm-hmm. And I think there's a humanity that I really preach both with my own personal brand and then when I'm guiding others in really just being who you are and owning yourself instead of trying to be like the crowd.
Mm-hmm. Being authentic and genuine, and people see that. I believe so.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what would you recommend to people getting started to really market themselves, to be themselves? I'm sure that's one of them, to be authentic, but what do you recommend?
It's kind of a loaded question because ultimately we're in this period of time where there's so much opportunity to do it. Like I came up in the ad agency business where the only way to get mass reach and frequency was TV or outdoor boards. Yeah. And what social media has afforded is for anyone to become known, famous, and an authority. And so first and foremost, you have to embrace that opportunity. And then when you're doing that, you've got to just understand that your perspective is unique, that people relate to different people. Like there's going to be people that relate, even if it's similar topics, they might relate more to me than someone else. They might relate to this guru or that guru or someone like that. There's people get, I think, a little caught up in their own egos with exactly what they have to do. And the first they have to break through that. And then, I mean, it's stuff like this. I mean, we're on this podcast. Like it's it's like the biggest icebreaker of all time with developing relationships and building your authority, because you get to speak about what you know and people get to know you. And so you have these opportunities to get reach beyond what was ever capable of 10 or 15 years ago. And I think that's where you start.
Such an opportunity to really get to know people at a personal level, because on social media, we just invite people, if you're authentic, right? Invite people to your room, let them get to know you. Very cool. So what are 3 books you'd recommend? Or 3 books that you really love that you're reading right now? I have a feeling my guests, a lot of my guests have great books.
I mean, one of my all-time, I come up in this weird traditional digital in advertise, Mad Men movies, all this traditional advertising stuff. But Ogilvy on Advertising is one of the most classic ad books of all time. And what people don't understand exactly is he wrote the book like 50 years ago, and it's still relevant because he was a master salesperson. He was a master understanding of human behavior. And he ultimately understood that ideas are not always tangible, but they move the needle because it drives consumer behavior and sales. And the practices and tactics that Ogilvy lays out in that book are still relevant. I've probably read it 5 times in my lifetime and reread it probably a couple of years ago. And I reread it because we started getting older. We forget as much as we remember. I started to think, are these still going to be practical uses? And it is. It's like, so, and even if you're not in advertising or marketing, if you're listening to this, go read it. You'll learn a lot about what it takes to push the needle in developing creative concepts and understanding the interplay of brand and sales activity with driving consumer behavior. So it's really fascinating. And then, for time's sake, I'll speak to Contagious, which is, content. What makes content? What makes things catch on? What makes it contagious? What makes things break through? Fascinating book. When you start reading, it's one of those books that on the surface, you start reading, you're like, I knew that, but you're shaking your head up and down the entire time. Because the nuances with which he does a lot of case studies of things that you're familiar with, and you'll start nodding your head because you either heard of it, it's familiar, like a specific offer or a restaurant or someone that does something really unique, but really caught on and created this fire and really created this virality. And it's really like the first book that I think really encapsulates what makes those things trigger. And I mean, I'm going to stop there, but lastly, if we have time, is leader brand. And it's this notion of building personal brand and how leaders have to build personal brand if they don't want to leave some chips on the table with what the opportunity is with growing your business. The world of sitting behind the desk and kind of being behind the scenes as a leader those days are over. And people want some transparency with their leadership. And there's so much opportunity when you get out of your own way and you're willing to take that steps. And it's really, really actionable towards that. But all of these books really kind of feed one another towards a lot of things that I believe in, which is where content's kind of headed.
I'll definitely have to watch this again and write some notes, because those are all good books that I have not read. So thank you for that. So if you had 10 times the budget that you have right now, what would you spend it on?
New boat.
Question.
This is one where I'm kind of this type of person that I don't look in the rearview mirror much, and I also don't. I kind of deal in reality and not like the what ifs. Right. So I'm the worst person to answer like this question, but I would trial a few different. I double, like quadruple or 8x down on what's already working, and then I'd save 20% for testing some things. And it's kind of what I tell my clients anyway. Like, it's the 80-20 rule. Like, whatever's working, let's pour gas on the fire. Like whatever marketing tactic, whatever branding initiative. You pour gas on what's working, and then you leave some amount of budget to be testing things so that you're ahead of the curve or ahead of the wave before the next thing comes. Because in this day and age, there's so many marketing tactics and message. You don't know when something's going to flip. And so you got to be ready for that. And so I would be, pouring more gas and testing more things.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what's working, right? Yes. So with that being said, what do you think the next marketing wave is? Where do you think it's going?
I own an agency called Radical, and I think of myself as progressive, but I'm like practical in that manner. But here's the deal. People have never been more aware than they are today that they're being marketed to, advertised to.
Yes.
And they don't really like it. And the reality is people think that means there's going to be less marketing or less advertising. I'm actually think it's going to be more, because it's just going to be less transparent and less hitting you over the head with the ones that do it well, with trying to get you to do something immediately. What do I mean by that? Everything becomes marketing. Coca-Cola is going to start news stations. Pepsi is going to start podcasts. These brands are going to lean into creating content, entertainment, educational things to where the payoff is their product, but it's going to be less heavy-handed as buy this Coke today. Right. And so you're going to see this intersection of media and brands and content that's going to be more organic. And then the channels themselves are going to grow and change. But I do think that we've become a TikTok nation in our attention spans, which are very small. Yeah. And I'm not sure that genie's going to go back in the bottle. And so but what I think is going to happen, and it's what I have a lot of beliefs about the education system's going to go social. Like, it's like, I'm probably going to pay my own kids just to take social media classes, and I'll train them. I mean, like, if I could yank them out of school, I probably would. My wife's in education. She'd kill me. But like, reality is, I think that TikTok style, that short form vertical video is going to expand where these social networks are more specific to the genre. Because right now, like, the thing that happens on TikTok is you go crazy. Like, I've got my 7 things I follow. I get all these golf tips and these cooking tips and all that. But it's all blended together. It's kind of messy. Yeah. I think you're going to have, and I think the next business idea that I might start, it's going to be like an educational TikTok, like where you learn certain subjects, but it's in the TikTok style. Yeah. And so I think you're going to see the verticalization of these platforms really grow. But ultimately, the ones that are going to win are going to be people that realize that advertising is dead, and content at scale in the right way is really what's going to thrive.
Mm-hmm. Well, you heard it first on Marketing Masters. Our first school of TikTok is going to be happening. I love that. And you're right. That's how, especially the next generations that are coming up, and even in your face branding, it's so different. You watch TV shows and you'll see like a Coca-Cola there, because maybe they have some money behind it, but they're not like in your face. So you definitely see that now.
Yep.
So
it's changing.
Yeah, absolutely. What's something everyone in your industry should stop or start doing? You might have already answered this a little bit, but
yeah. Stop playing the short game.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, short-termism is a disease in a lot of things, not just in our industry, but in life. When you play the short game, when you don't do right by, people, like, we live to be a lot longer than ever. Like, what do we live to, like 75 to 80 years old now? Like, it's a long time. Yes, it goes quick, but there's a lot of lifetimes in there, and you aren't going to become rich, famous, and everything like in 1 year or 2 years. So, and you're not going to make a sale on every single ad or brand positioning that you do. It takes some time. And it doesn't mean that ultimately we aren't guided by sales, but the short-termism is really the death nail for most brands that just cannot get out of the way of how can I drive the next dollar instead of how can I build the bigger, longer relationship. Customer relationship management is a lost art, but it is the secret sauce to longevity. And people are too busy following growth instead of nurturing what you already have.
Yes.
And I think you're going to see that's what people need to start doing. And I think the ones that win and lose are going to be down that line. And I mean, what do they need to start doing? You know, they got to take care of the customers, build community, lean into AI the right way. But you know, it's the short-termism thing is just like one of my hot buttons that I'm always preaching.
No, that's good. That's really cool. I've really enjoyed everything we've chatted about and your insight. And I love the education on TikTok. I'm going to be looking
Hey,
for
that's
you.
going to be $1 billion idea. I'm telling you right now, kids don't learn the same way anymore. We're still
No.
feeding them the same old way that we did things, and kids don't learn that way anymore. They don't have the attention spans, and they shouldn't. I don't really have it either. So why should we expect them to do what we don't have the attention span for? But they can, and they do need to still learn, but they need to learn in the right way, in the way media and social media can guide this in a way. So it's not like we have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We
Right.
still need to teach our children these lessons and fundamental things, but we need to do it on their terms and not ours.
Yeah, I just having this conversation with someone the other day, and it's so true. It's like teaching us the same way like 30 years ago that they are now, and it's just different. So very cool. Well, how can we follow
Totally
you
different.
on social and just get to know you more and stay connected?
Yeah, RyanAlford.com has all my stuff. And then I'm verified on every social media platform at Ryan Alford, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. I post, thousands of times a year. So I'm out there, but RyanAlford.com, you can find all of the stuff. We're actually launching a new site and got a lot of exciting things coming.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ryan, for your time. And this is Michelle Bell with Marketing Masters, and we'll see you next time.